This podcast is brought to you by our friends at Minimal Case. Minimal is so excited about the Pixel 4, they're giving you 25% off your order for the brand new Pixel 4 case that you're going to pick up. The Pixel 4 is beautiful, and you want a case that is so thin and light, it'll keep that phone as beautiful as the day you bought it. And to make that even sweeter, here's 25% off your order. Just use promo code DIGITPIXEL4 at checkout, because this is a Digit Daily and you're celebrating the Pixel 4. But you can use this code for any case for any phone. Once again, go to mnmlcase.com and use promo code DGITPixel and the number 4 to get 25% off your order, and we thank them for sponsoring this podcast. Good morning, Digit fam. Adam Doud here, barely, with another dose of tech and geekery for your ear holes. I had to pick up my wife from the airport last night from a flight scheduled to get in at 11:52 p.m. And trust me, when your flight is scheduled to get in at midnight, you are scheduled to have a bad frickin' morning. Despite her plane landing 15 minutes early, she emerged from the airport 2 hours later. The cause? A flat tire on the plane at her gate before hers. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't like changing car tires, so I appreciate how this is probably challenging to the maintenance technicians on site. But this is O'Hare Airport. It's the 12th biggest airport in the world by size and 4th largest by volume. Could they not have redirected my wife's plane to another one of the 189 gates at the airport? Air travel sucks, but whatever. It is October 28th, 2019, and this is your Digit Daily. Pixelbook Go reviews started dropping late last week and over the weekend, which gives us a look at the latest laptop from our favorite Google. Overall, Chrome OS is great for average people because it's basically a web browser revamped into an entire operating system, and shocker of all shockers, most people spend most of their time on the web. It's a little ironic that the most resource-intensive web browser bore an operating system famous for running on underpowered, cheap hardware. But here we are. With Android apps added on, you have yourself a pretty powerful computing solution for not a lot of Benjamins. But then, there's the Pixel line of computers and, air quotes, tablets. Pixel phones are great. We're not talking about those. We're talking about Chromebooks, or as Google calls them, Pixelbooks, which have been in a weird place since day one. Google has never really shown us a compelling reason why you should buy a $1,000 Chromebook, even though for the past 2 years, Google has released $1,000 Chromebooks. Enter the Pixelbook Go, which is, air quotes again, the cheaper version of the Pixelbook at $649. The problem is that the Pixelbook Go, as it is today, is a $350, maybe $400 Chromebook in a $650 body. The good news is the device's hardware is really nice, with a great build, great battery life, great keyboard with very quiet keys. The bad news is that the display, the part that you look at all the time, is not great unless you fork out $1,400 for the 4K version, but again, $1,000 Chromebook. Versions cheaper than that are 1080p, not bright, very prone to glare, and just generally crappier than the competition. In terms of design, some reviewers call it plain, others call it ugly. Personally, I'm more in the former camp, but whatever. Plus, in terms of specs, the laptop uses eMMC storage, which is cheaper, yay, but slower and less reliable than SSDs. Boo. Add it all up, and you do not have a primary use machine, but rather a secondary Go device, so at least it's appropriately named. But that's where we run into the pricing problem. For $650, you're not quite in primary laptop territory, but you're also not in secondary device grab-and-go territory. It's too cheap for the former and too expensive for the latter. Getting back to those reviews, Ars Technica says, quote, ultimately, the minimalist design branded with a little G on the lid is what you're paying for because the rest of the Pixelbook Go is average. It performs well in every way you'd expect, but it doesn't do anything extraordinary. I'd consider that acceptable for the $649 model, but that doesn't make it the best value Chromebook for the money. You can get an Asus Chromebook Flip C434T with identical specs, but an arguably better name, that part was added by me, for about $625. Price justification becomes even more difficult when you consider the higher-end specifications of the Pixelbook Go. Meanwhile, Scott Stein of CNET says, quote, "I'd choose a more affordable Chromebook or one that can be a tablet. Those exist. The HP Chromebook X2 is available for less and feels more versatile. $400 to $500 seems like the furthest I'd go to pay for a Chromebook." So basically, Google still hasn't solved the pricing problem, even with its more, air quotes again, affordable laptop. The fact remains that there are better and cheaper alternatives to the Pixelbook already out there. It doesn't offer anything new, so it begs the question, why? And Google hasn't sufficiently answered that question as of yet. So while Google stammers and tries to come up with a good marketing spin, let's head into the Roundup! Speaking of Google problems, Huawei has a bit of a Google problem, which is to say that Huawei can't work with Google at all. Yada yada, entity list, etc. We all know the story. So how did Honor, Huawei's sub-brand, just release a new mid-range phone in Europe with Google services on it? Well, as it turns out, the internals of the phone are the same as another phone Huawei released 5 months ago before the ban, called the Huawei P Smart Z. The Huawei Honor 9X uses mostly the same stuff on the inside, but in a different candy shell. The internals already went through Google's testing and certification, so Honor is perfectly free to release a new phone with the same stuff. It's a cute workaround, but not viable for a long-term solution. After all, those mid-range specs are already 5 months old, and they're not getting any younger. But it can put a few more butts in the seats, which makes Huawei a happy boy. Tile is making a bit of a comeback recently. Heck, I think this is the second time this month that I've said their company's name, so good for you, Tile. You can now ask Google Assistant to locate your Tile trackers, so as you run through the house in a mad dash to get out the door, you can say, "Okay, G, where are my keys?" and the Tile will beep, which is pretty nice. Of course, the Tile will be beeping in your hand because you already picked up your keys 5 minutes ago, but that's an entirely different problem. Samsung launched a space selfie balloon into space. Obviously. The idea was that you take a selfie and upload it to www.samsung-spaceselfie.com, and a Samsung phone in orbit displays your selfie, while a second camera takes a new photo of your selfie with the Earth as a backdrop and sends it back to you. It's a cute idea, except the space selfie machine crash-landed in a Michigan couple's backyard after only a few days in space. A few hours after the crash, some engineers showed up to collect the wreckage, Men in Black style. When the couple asked just what the hell was going on, one of the men responded that they weren't at liberty to say, which I can only imagine how long this dude has been waiting to tell someone that he's not at liberty to say something. Samsung said the balloon was supposed to remain in orbit until October 31st, but instead came down in a soft controlled landing prematurely due to weather issues. In space. And now I have more questions. A Russian security researcher found a vulnerability in a Xiaomi pet feeder that gave her access to every Xiaomi pet feeder in the world, which is a stunning revelation. Not the access to other pet feeders part, the part where Xiaomi actually makes pet feeders. Anyway, due to this bug, we now know that there are about 10,000 of these pet feeders worldwide, and this researcher can tell you where each and every one of them is. She's already reported the bug to Xiaomi, who will be releasing a fix, so don't worry, Fifi will continue to get her food on time. And finally, we talked about the can opener bridge in North Carolina before. This 11-foot, 8-inch bridge was the site of hundreds of accidents ripping the tops off of overhyped trucks. And for the last 8 years, a saint by the name of Jurgen has been documenting these crashes via webcam. It's honestly quite hilarious, but all good things must come to an end. Road crews are in place to raise the bridge for Can Opener 2.0. It remains to be seen whether or not trucks will still be too tall to make it through, and of course whether or not they'll try anyway. But for now, it's the end of an era, and if I'm totally honest, probably about time. So that's going to do it for today's Digit Daily. If you'd like to learn more about any of these stories, check out the links in the show notes and subscribe to our daily newsletter on Digit.com. And if you like what you heard, subscribe, leave a review, and don't forget to tell your friends about DigitDailyPod.com. Once again, I'm Adam Doud, Dead Technology on Twitter, and we'll talk again tomorrow.